What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 66 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Monday, April 7th, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malama. Before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off once again in the world of baseball, as both New York teams were in action this weekend. And let's start it on the side of the New York Mets, who are on a 4-game win streak now and had a series sweep over the Toronto Blue Jays this weekend. They got the win from Tyler McGill on Friday. They won things in the bottom of the ninth on a Francisco Lindor sac fly, a walk-off sac fly on Saturday night. And then yesterday they closed things out. Edwin Diaz slamming the door shut in the ninth to win this one 2-1. Pete Alonso got an RBI earlier in the game for the Mets. And when you look at this team right now, I think the biggest difference for this Mets team is how well their pitching has been. Their starters have been lights out, and you can see that in just 3 runs allowed in this entire series against a powerful Blue Jays offense. Their bullpen has been one of the best in baseball, if not the best in baseball. I mean, statistically, they are way up there in ERA, and obviously they've got a lot of guys that they brought back from last year's team. They also added a couple guys to the mix, and how about a guy like Max Kranick, who yesterday came in and with the bases loaded, Peterson in a jam and had to come out of the game and was dealing with some nausea. Then you have Kranick, who comes in and slams it shut with 2 outs in the top of the 6th inning. So when you look at that, I mean, give credit where credit is due. The Toronto Blue Jays just did not stand a chance there against the New York Mets. And obviously, when you look at the Mets starters as well, McGill pitched a very solid game on Friday night, and they got the same thing from Peterson on Sunday. You also had a solid outing from Griffin Canning, who was really throwing the ball well for the most part. Only the 1 earned run in 4 innings, and give credit to Jose Butto, who came in and helped his buddy Canning out with not many earned runs to get on base, and obviously really earn runs to get on the board. Obviously, when you look at Griffin Canning and Tyler McGill and David Peterson, not too many people would put them near the top of baseball in terms of starting pitchers. Not your go-to guys, really, I would say, in Major League Baseball. But when you look at what the Mets have done in recent history with Jeremy Hefner, their pitching coach, and obviously Carlos Mendoza as their manager, they have really honed in on getting things done quickly when it comes to a transition for a lot of starting pitchers and a lot of pitchers that have maybe struggled in their recent history and struggled so far in their major league career. David Stearns is one of the best in baseball, if not the best, of finding just those gems in the water. And he really, really does a great job of it. And I think the Mets are really focused on that right now, especially with all the injuries to their pitching staff throughout this spring training. And you had a couple of guys in Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas who went out with injury, and you had to rely on some of these lower leverage guys, I would say, and guys that you would want to put in lower leverage situations, or low leverage situations, excuse me. But now you look at these guys and say, wow, they have really stepped up to the plate, and they've been fantastic so far. I know it's just a couple of weeks and it's very early in this major league season. However, the Mets starting pitching has been rock solid, and that was an area that I was really worried about heading into the season, and their bullpen has been absolutely flawless so far this season. So they now sit at 6-3, and they are on a 3-game win streak right now. And obviously, they have a series coming up now against the Miami Marlins, a 3-game set now at home at Citi Field. They started off tonight, 7-10 start, as Kodai Senga is going to be on the mound, and Belozo will be on the other side for the Miami Marlins. And then you have tomorrow Holmes against Gillespie, and then you have McGill versus Meyer on Wednesday. That one, a 1:10 game. So make sure you tune into all of those games this week, but it all starts tonight. Senga versus Belozo, and a 7-10 start at Citi Field, as the Mets are minus 285 on the money line for this one, expecting a big performance by the Mets, and they're feeling good so far this season. They take on the 5-4 Miami Marlins. Let's move things to the other side of New York and up in the Bronx, where the Yankees went on the road this weekend, and they took 2 out of 3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the bottom teams in Major League Baseball, or projected to be this season. Obviously, they got their star man in Paul Skeens, but he doesn't play every day. He plays every 5 days. And then the Yankees avoided Paul Skeens this weekend and went up against a couple of Pittsburgh starters that they really took advantage of, and a lot of runs up on the board. 9 runs on Friday night. They won that game 9-4. The Yankees did. Max Fried gets his first win as a New York Yankee. And then you had a 10-4 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates on Saturday. And that one was all about Trent Grisham. What a player he's been in the last couple of days for the New York Yankees. He had 2 home runs in that game on Saturday afternoon and a solid start in the end for Marcus Stroman, one that you probably say, all right, well, based on Stroman's expectations, the 4 earned runs is not what you want. However, he only allowed 3 hits in that start, and in that outing, he had 3 walks as well, so he's got to cut those down. But 4 innings pitched, got into a bit of trouble, and you're just waiting for him to settle things down. But 3 hits, you're kind of going to take that. You're just going to say, all right, you got to be better with your pitch selection and obviously and getting too close to these hitters. And Ke'Bryan Hayes started it off with a double. Then Valdez doubled as well. That brought in 2 runs for the Pirates in the 4th inning. That's just when he got into trouble, was in the 4th inning. And obviously, that's something that needs to change for Stroman as we get to the next couple of starts or so. Just really don't give the opponent a chance to really get back into the game like they did on Saturday. But obviously, his offense really stepped up for him. 10 runs in that game, and they defeat the Pirates 10-4. The Yankees did take a loss yesterday in extra innings in the 11th, where the Pirates, won it on a walk-off single by Tommy Pham in the 11th, and Devin Williams gets credited for the loss, his first loss as the Yankees closer, and was not a closing situation here, or not a save situation here, but he did come in and gave up that single to Pham, which obviously ended this one in extra innings. Not the greatest day for a guy like Will Warren, who you're still waiting for him to really get settled as a major league pitcher. It's now been almost a year and a half, and Will Warren's gotten plenty of opportunities. He got plenty of them late in the season last year, and even a couple early in the season with the injury to Garrett Cole last year. You're waiting for him to settle things down. The strikeouts are there. He had 5 yesterday, but too many hits, too much hard contact, and he allowed 4 earned runs to this Pirates offense. So I think you need to really hone in on Will Warren and settle him down. Obviously, the Yankees are in a bad spot in terms of health when it comes to starting pitching, but Carlos Carrasco settled in very nicely, I feel like. Will Warren, you got to get the same out of him. But the Yankees now sit at 6-3 as well, same record as the New York Mets, and they now look forward to a solid series here ahead against the Detroit Tigers, a team that made the postseason last year, and they're going to have to face arguably the best pitcher in baseball. They will do that tomorrow during the day. All of these games this series have been moved up to daytime due to the cold weather that is coming in Detroit, Michigan. When you look at this game today, though, a 3:10 start. Carlos Rodon will take on Casey Mize. This one, like I said, at 3:10 up in Detroit, and the Yankees are minus 155 on the money line for this one. Rodon is 1-1 on the season. Had that great game on opening day where he took down the Milwaukee Brewers, just a 1 earned run, 4 hits allowed. Had 3 hits allowed against Arizona on Wednesday, but 4 earned runs, and the Diamondbacks really got to him in that Wednesday start at Yankee Stadium. So he's looking to bounce back against a tough Detroit Tigers lineup, and the Yankees will see a familiar face most likely, and a guy in Gleyber Torres that spent all that time with them in the last couple of years. So we'll see what happens, but a 3-10 start later today. Make sure you tune in as the Yankees go on the road to take on the Detroit Tigers. Let's move things to basketball, and the New York Knicks were in action last night, and they took down the Phoenix Suns 112-98. Let's just go back to the last couple of games for the Knicks as we look at Saturday's win over the Atlanta Hawks, 121-105. The Knicks win this one, and a solid win overall for New York as they really just continue to strive towards this postseason and play well towards this postseason. They had that one loss the other day to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Other than that, though, this Knicks team has been on a roll, and I feel like all the credit has to go to one man, and that is OG Anunoby. What a player he has been in the last 10 games for the New York Knicks. He's averaging 27 a game in his last 10, and he's been red hot when it comes to three-point land, when it comes to going down low and just taking it to the bigs in the paint. He's been tremendous, and the lowest point total he's had in the last 10 games has been 23 points. He did that twice, once against Washington in a 20-point win, and then against Cleveland in that one loss that the Knicks have had. So when you look at that, I mean, they are really relying on OG Anunoby. He's been very, very strong. I need this to keep going when it comes to the postseason, though. If he can continue that, obviously Jalen Brunson returned yesterday in that win over Phoenix. They still got the production from OG Anunoby. He had 32 points as we look at that 112-98 victory over the Phoenix Suns last night. 32 points for OG Anunoby. He's shot 13 of 17 from the field. What a player he's been for the Knicks. 19 of his 32 came after the break in the third quarter. Just what a player he's been for the Knicks and how impactful he can be for the Knicks heading into the postseason. They're going to need a guy like OG Anunoby big time when they go up against one of those top teams in the Eastern Conference. Probably going to be the Boston Celtics, who they're going to see in a couple days. We'll talk about that later. But right now, this one is all about OG Anunoby. He needs to keep it going. Karl-Anthony Towns has been real solid right next to him. You know what you're going to get from Jalen Brunson as well. But the Knicks have been waiting for one of their guys, whether it was Mikal Bridges, Deuce McBride maybe coming off the bench, OG Anunoby there for this Knicks team. And you're expecting not as many points from Josh Hart. You're waiting for one of those guys, though, to really step up and be the third man in this lineup. And OG Anunoby has taken that really very well, I would say, in the last couple of games. So obviously the Knicks are looking for him to do a lot more as they now take on the Boston Celtics on Tuesday night. And that one, a 7:30 start. The Celtics come into that game as 3.5-point favorites, total sitting at 223.5. And this one is huge in my mind for the New York Knicks. Obviously, you look at the other side for Boston. If they clinch that 2 spot, and probably going to do so in the next day or so, they may have their starters playing. Jason Tatum is a game-time decision, as well as Kristaps Porzingis, also a game-time decision for the Celtics in this one. You got to give me something if you're the New York Knicks. Just a win this season over the Boston Celtics. Just one win. That's all you need right now. And that will probably raise the confidence of these Knicks players as well as the Knicks faithful who have to go out to those games when they do take on Boston if it does happen in the second round. Just give them some hope as Boston has really toyed with the Knicks all year long. Just plenty of games where it's just been absolute blowouts in the end for Boston over New York. Home, on the road, doesn't matter. Boston's had the Knicks number all season. You got to prove that you are in the same stratosphere as the Boston Celtics if you are the New York Knicks in this game. They have to win this game. I think it's a must-win for New York, and obviously they have Jalen Brunson back healthy. That will be big time for New York tomorrow night. But, of course, the trend that OG Anunoby is on, I think he needs a big game as well. You just got to prove that you can keep up with the Boston Celtics, and that'll give plenty of people confidence heading into the postseason. So tune in to tomorrow night's game, a 7:30 start, as the 58-20 Boston Celtics take on the 50-28 New York Knicks at MSG. Let's finish things off today with a college basketball update and a Final Four update as we go back to Saturday's games. We'll start off with the early one where number 1 Florida, the 1 seed out of the West region, took on number 1 Auburn, the 1 seed out of the South region, and the SEC battle that was in the Final Four took place between Florida and Auburn, and it was the Gators who came out on top with a phenomenal second half. 41-27, they outscored the Auburn Tigers, and they closed out a 79-73 win as the Gators moved to their first championship and advanced to their first championship since 2007, back when they won it, and they won 2 in a row in 06 and 07. With guys like Joakim Noah, as well as Al Horford on that team, and obviously a lot of others that really played a big time minutes for the Gators back then. And there was only one guy that played massive minutes here and really stood out above the rest for Florida in this one. It was their guy in Walter Clayton Jr. Going to deserve any award that he gets at the end of this season and all of the awards that he's going to get. He had 34 to take down the Auburn Tigers, shot 11 of 18 from the field, hit 5 threes, shot 5 of 8 from beyond the arc, and he was their leading scorer by far. The second leading scorer for Florida was Elijah Martin. He had 17, so double the amount of points for Walter Clayton over the second highest scorer for Florida in this one. And he really deserved the spotlight. He was tremendous in this game and mounting that comeback for the Florida Gators. Give them credit. As on the other side, Janai Broome kind of struggled in this one, did not have plenty of boards, and maybe that had to do with a bit of health concerns coming into the game. And that was a big time elbow injury that he had last week against Michigan State in the Elite Eight. Comes into this one at 15 points and 7 rebounds, but only on 6 of 14 shooting. Did not hit a 3 in this game. It was Chad Baker-Mazara who was the leading scorer for the Tigers in this one, 18 points, and they had really no contributions from anybody else. Denver Jones did not shoot the ball well, 3 of 9 from the field. Miles Kelly, who's supposed to be a lights-out three-point shooter and really puts up a ton of points for Auburn, only had 8 points, had 2 threes, but shot 3 of 10 from the field. That's it. And then you have Tahad Pettiford, who comes off the bench and is really a spark for the Auburn Tigers off the bench, and he only had 7 points in this one and shot 1 of 6 from the field, 0 of 4 from three-point land. Just not good enough from the Auburn Tigers. Only shot 28% from 3, and if you're trying to win a game, free throws is a big part of it as well. They shot 16 of 23 from the free throw line. Wasn't much better on the other side for Florida, 21 of 30 from the free throw line, but just those 5 points more from the charity strike. When you look at that, that's really almost the difference in the game. So Auburn just did not hit their free throws, and they really struggled to shoot from three-point land, and ultimately it ended Bruce Pearl's season. What a season it was. They completely stormed through quad one and really took down a lot of massive opponents and a lot of tough games. I think it's a real bright future in the end for the Auburn Tigers, but they will do it without Janai Broome, who finishes his college career with a Final Four loss. The other game down in San Antonio was one of the more shocking endings you will ever see in the college game, as number 1 Houston, out of the Midwest region, the number 1 seed there, took on number 1 Duke out of the East region, and Houston comes out with a shocking comeback win in the last couple of minutes in this one, a 70-67 win over the Duke Blue Devils in a game that they were down 64-55 with just over 2 minutes to go, 2:15 to be exact, and 2:05 is when Emmanuel Sharp hit the layup to cut the lead to 7 for Duke. And obviously Houston keeps going, and they force a couple turnovers. They get fouled, and they go to the free throw line. Duke misses a couple of open shots, turns the ball over as well, and Houston somehow gets a big-time shot from Jawan Roberts, who ended up with the free throws that almost took the lead, did take the lead and sealed the deal. Of course, you had Cooper Flagg missing a jumper from the free throw line or around the free throw line. Tyrese Proctor missed a three-pointer at the buzzer, which didn't end up counting no matter what. Obviously, this is a massive shocker in the end to the Duke Blue Devils, who had that 9-point lead with just over 2 minutes to go, and their season ends in miraculous fashion for the Houston Cougars, a team that already had a couple games like this, one of them, to be specific, up in Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas earlier in the season, where they were down 6 with 10 seconds left in the overtime period against the Kansas Jayhawks, and somehow found a way to tie that game and win it in double overtime. So give credit to Houston. No quit for this Houston Cougars team, and that's really the motto for Kelvin Sampson and his guys. A very strong defensive team that can also cause a lot of havoc, and they end up outscoring Duke 42-33 in the second half and grab a massive win over the Duke Blue Devils. What a surprising victory as they now advance to tonight's game, an 8:50 start down in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. It is the number 1 seed Florida out of the West region taking on number 1 seeded Houston out of the Midwest region. This one, the national championship. It all comes down to this in college basketball in 2025. Florida is 1.5-point favorites heading into this game, total sitting at 140.5. And this one's going to be a real close one in my mind. I know Florida, a lot of people feel like they have the edge offensively. However, Houston, if you learned anything from their Final Four matchup with Duke, they never quit. Their defense is electric all game long, and they really cause a lot of havoc. As long as they stay out of foul trouble, they should be in good shape here. And I kind of like the Cougars heading into this game over Florida, just based on the fight that they have. This one is down in San Antonio, so a bit of a home game for the Houston Cougars. And I feel like just the dream is there after a comeback like that in the semifinal. I do think that Houston ends up getting the win here, but it's all going to come down to their defense on Walter Clayton Jr. If they can really cause havoc and lock down a guy like Walter Clayton, they will be in for a good night. I do think their offense needs to come up big as well. They do have some real strong scorers, Uzan, Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp, all 3 of those guys, and then they have the bigs down low in Francis as well as Jawan Roberts. If all of those guys come to play and their offense is clicking on the night, I just think Houston has the chance to win it all here. And obviously a team that in a tough Big 12 conference, and Kelvin Sampson said it himself, they were quite undefeated, almost undefeated in Big 12 play. That one loss to Texas Tech on their home floor was their only fluke in Big 12 play this season, and one of the best conferences in the country. If not the best conference in the country. I know people have the argument on the other side for Florida's conference, the SEC, that had plenty of teams in the tournament this year. I do think that Houston is built for this kind of moment, and the experience that comes with this Houston team, the experience of being in tournaments together, and a lot of guys that have played a lot of minutes together on this Houston team in the last couple of years. Sharp, Cryer, Roberts, like I said, all of those guys under Kelvin Sampson in the last couple of years. They are made for this moment, and I think the Cougars could come out on top here. We'll see what happens. But that'll do it for episode 66 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Mellon, but thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Thursday.